Good morning students, welcome to the virtual classrooms. We are studying it, chapter number 10, haloalkenes, haloarenes. In the last lecture, we studied it related to the preparation of alkyl halides. Even during that, we understood it that certain things that are common for all the chapters. The same reaction can become as a preparation, same reaction can become as an identification, or same reaction can become as in chemical properties. Similarly, today, what we are going to study, it is a physical properties. Now the concept of the physical properties for all the chapters are going to remain same. Particularly the functional groups are going to change, but the properties, the concepts are not going to change. We are going to study physical properties. Physical properties means here we are going to study about melting point and boiling point. We are going to study about solubility. We are going to study about density. These are the physical characteristics of the compounds. Right? Here, particularly in the chapter of halides, we will term it as an, I am studying it as an properties of, or physical properties of halides. Right? Now, in the chapter of alcohol, I will take them as an physical properties of alcohols, physical properties of phenol, physical properties of ether, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acid. For all the chapters, it's going to remain same. Only the factor is the functional group will change. Certain things will change, but its concepts are not going to be changed. Concepts are going to remain same. Now, particularly for this, what are the concepts? So, first of all, for melting point and boiling point, what is the concept? The first factor says that if polarity of molecules increases, then boiling point and melting point are increasing. If polarity increases, melting point, boiling point increases. Now it may be any of the functional group, it's not fixed. It can be any of the functional group. Second factor, if compounds produces H bond H bond, then boiling point and melting point are going to increase. Now again, I am not discussing it. It's a particularly halogen or alcohol. Halogen and alcohol. Alcohol can produce hydrogen. Boiling point, melting point will be high. So concept is hydrogen bond. More the hydrogen bond, higher is the boiling point, melting point. So here that is again the one of it. Third is an for if compound shows resonance. If compounds shows resonance, then melting point, boiling point are also higher. Then also the melting point, boiling points will be higher, right? So the third point is resonance. So whichever the functional group or whichever the compounds are given, try to find out this concept and you will get your answers, right? The fourth point is about its molecular mass. If molar mass of compounds increases, then also melting point and boiling point increases. So that shows that if I am trying to find out these factors, I will be very easily recognizing it, which one will have an higher melting point, higher boiling point, right? Because we are not going to be asked only as in physical properties. Write a short note on physical properties. They will ask us the question, arrange the following given compounds in the ascending or descending order of their boiling points. Again, in that case, they are not going to specifically give us only halogens. They can combine with alcohols, phenols, ethers, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, amines, whichever the functional group they like. Only the concepts that if they are clear to me. Again, polarity more, higher melting point, boiling point. If you are having it as an H bond, its melting point will be more. More the H bond, more is the melting point, boiling point. If the compound have a higher molar mass, melting point, boiling point will be high. So if I am having this concept ready in my mind, I can go it for physical properties of any given compound. Any given, I am not talking about halogens, any, right? At present, today we will discuss only halogens, right? Let us check it, what we are going to get it for it, right? Okay. Similarly, for solubility, before we discuss in one by one the physical properties of the compounds, of the halogens, particularly before I come in for the halogens, generalized for all the chapters, so that you can learn it for every chapter. Solubility, if the compound is capable of producing a hydrogen bond, then they are soluble in water. So for this, we will be writing it as an halogens, they can't produce hydrogen bond. So they are partially soluble in water because they are somewhat polar, right? But only for lower molecular weight containing compounds. That means, how can I recognize that which are the lower molecular weight containing compounds? So I will say that 1:3. One functional group, if it is present in the given compound, up to 3 carbons, it can make it soluble. If I am having 2 functional group in a single compound, I can say that up to 6 carbon it's soluble. But if I am having only 1 functional group and 4 carbons, then the compound is insoluble, right? This is a general concept, it is not given in the textbook, or it cannot be given out as any specific scientist rule. This is general knowledge or general applications. 1:3, 1 functional group up to 3 carbons, compounds are generally soluble. So for that case, solubility, if the compound can produce hydrogen bond with water, they are soluble. And up to 1:3 for all organic compounds. I am discussing it for, again I am repeating, for all organic compounds. Density, molar mass increases, density of the compound increases. So that will be fixed for every compound. Molar mass increased, density increases, right? Let us check it for one by one for particularly halogens. We are specifically discussing it at present now only for halogen. Initially we discussed for general. Now first of all, I want to write it as number of halogens in compounds increases. Then what will happen? Melting point and boiling point will increase, right? Now let's take it as an example. If I take it as CH3Cl, CH2Cl2, CHCl3, CCl4, then what is going to happen? The boiling point, we are going to get it as CCl4 to be highest and CH3Cl to be the least. Now what is the reason behind it? Same concept. See, molecular mass increased. Because the number of halogen increased, molecular mass increased. Okay, not as a molecular mass. Let's take it as a polarity. CH is having only CH3Cl, only 1 polar bond, 2 polar bond, 3, 4 polar bonds. So melting point, boiling point increases, right? So polarity, electronegativity increases, molecular mass increases, right? You can see it. So that shows that they are increasing the number of the halogens, the melting point, boiling point of the compound increases. The second, as number of carbon increases, number of carbon in compounds increases, melting point and boiling point increases. Again, for this, if I write it as an example, CH3Cl, CH3CH2 Cl, CH3CH2 CH2Cl, right? What does it show? Again, number of carbon increases, molecular mass of the compound will increase, so melting point, boiling point will increase, right? As changing from F2I, boiling point, melting point increases. Now again, this is CH3F, Cl, Br, I. This time we are not changing the number of carbon atoms. We are not changing the number of halogens also. Simply we are changing the halogen itself. Now what does it shows? Its molecular weight 19, 35.5, 80, 127. This is going to remain 15 for all of them. For all of them this is 15. So what does it shows? Molecular weight increases, the melting point, boiling point also increased. Right? So as changing from F to I also, melting point, boiling point will increase. Right? Okay. Next one. Primary to tertiary. Primary to tertiary. Here it's only the factor. Till now every time I was using the word increase. Here this time I am going to use the word decrease. That is, if I am having it as the same number of carbon atoms, we know it that we are having it as an isomers. Here we are having it as a primary. CH3, CH2, CH, CH3. Secondary. CH3, CH3. Tertiary. That means here neither the number of the polar bonds are changed, neither the polarity has changed, neither the molecular weight has changed, but still the boiling point has changed. What is the reason for this? Intermolecular distance. Now this carbon, iodine, is attached with one carbon. Whatever the force of attraction is there, it's distributed only with one carbon. What will happen over here? This is attached with one carbon, which is attached with two other carbons. So intermolecular forces of distance has been this has been decreased. Here still smaller. You can say that this is the distance. This. So as the intermolecular distance decreases, the force of attraction will decrease. Intermolecular distance decreases, force of attraction decreases, repulsion increases, melting point, boiling point will decrease. Right? Okay. Next one that we will be having it as aryl halides. Have higher melting point and boiling point than alkyl halides. That means this time we are taking it as an example of chlorobenzene. CH3, CH2, CH2, CH2. So this is also having 6 carbon, this is also having 6 carbon. But still the aryl halides are having higher boiling point compared to that of alkyl. The reason is resonance. Compound showing resonance increases with their melting point, boiling point. That was the one of the concept that we wrote it. So those compounds which shows the resonance, the melting point, boiling point will be higher. Okay. So like this, the different compounds whenever are given to us and they are asking us, arrange them in the ascending or descending orders. These are the concepts that you will have to recall and you will have to arrange them in the ascending or descending orders. Okay. Next one, we are having it after melting point, boiling point, we will be having it to discuss about the density. Now for density, it's a one and the single word that we want to remember. Molar mass increases, density is going to increase. That is fixed. Molar mass increases, density is going to increase. Right? So as the number of carbon atom increases, as the number of halogen increases, if the halogen from F to I, I am going it F to I also, the density is going to increase. Right? And as already I told you, solubility, halides are partially soluble, or you can say that almost they are insoluble in water. They are very less soluble in water. So that is all what we are having it related to the physical properties. Again, before going into the next topic, I will be trying to recall you that physical properties, they are depending upon certain concepts. First one, polarity. Higher the electronegativity, higher is the polarity, higher is the melting point boiling point. Right? So I'm not fixing up the compound. I'm not fixing up the specific functional groups. It's a generalized. Second, molar mass increases, melting point boiling point increases. Third, if the hydrogen bond formation takes place, melting point boiling point will be higher. And the fourth one, resonance. More the resonating structures, higher is the melting point boiling point of the compound. Right? So that is what the physical properties. Right? The second now we want to study it is a chemical properties. Now, while we are studying about the chemical properties, before studying the chemical properties of the halogens, we are going it for the nucleophilic substitution, elimination and reaction with metal. Three properties. But before we study all the three, certain concepts that we want to remember or we want to learn it, and that are specifically for nucleophilic substitution reaction. For SN1 and SN2. This is nucleophilic substitution reaction 1 and nucleophilic substitution reaction 2. Before I go it for those reactions, I want to go it for certain basic concepts that we want to understand it, right? Which we are going to come across for them. So the basic concepts, basic certain definitions. We want to study some basic definitions. What are they? We are having it as one as chiral compounds. Now what is meaning of the chiral compounds? Now these are the basic. Today we will be going through basic concepts first of all. Chiral compounds. Chiral compounds is what? The compound, if you are having it as an carbon as an organic compound, carbon is having an 4 valency. If all these 4 valencies are satisfied by different functional groups, they are satisfied by all the 4 different functional groups, then we will consider that this carbon is chiral carbon. Right? Now this compound can produce a mirror image. If you are having it as a different functional group, it can produce mirror image. When it produces mirror image, that is known as enantiomers. They are considered as enantiomers. They are the isomers of each other. It's a stereoisomers. Right? They are considered to be as an isomers. Their melting point, boiling point, their physical, their chemical properties varies. They are not same. They differ. But compound with all the 4 valency of the carbon being different, it's known as chiral carbon. And its mirror image that is produced by it, we consider it as an enantiomers. Right? So if I say that this is A and this is B structure, then A and B are enantiomers of each other. A and B are the enantiomers of each other. Right? So but how can I come to know it that the given compound is containing all the 4 functional group different or not? Right? Or if an unknown substance comes in front of me, someone comes and give it to me that this is a compound. I don't know the structure, I don't know the molecular formula, I don't know the arrangement of the compound. How can I come to know it that whether it's a chiral compound or not? So for that case, we will have to go for an experimental condition. And that experimental condition will be, I want to go it for plane polarized light. To use it as plane polarized light. Right? Now what is plane polarized light? See, the routine, whatever the source of light we are having it, it's not necessary that it will allow the light to travel in a one direction. It allows the light to travel in any direction. Right? So such lights are considered to be as a monochromatic lights. The light which can have a different wavelength, different energy, different direction of propagation. Right? But what we want it is, I want it as plane polarized light. That means I want it as a light which is having, all the rays are having same wavelength, propagation in same direction, right? We want it having an light with the same energy, because energy and wavelength are inversely proportional to each other. We have studied in 11th, right? So we want it as an, all the rays, all the radiations that are as a source of light, what we are going to get it should have same energy, same wavelength and propagation in same direction. But how is it possible? This is monochromatic light. Allow it. This is, we got it as source of light. We allow it to pass through a it's a polarizer. This instrument is known as polarizer. It's a Nicol prism, tumoroid plate, different compounds can be used. Polarizer. It polarizes the light and allows the light to propagate into same direction with same wavelength. So this one will be considered to be as a polarized light. This is considered as a polarized light. Now, this polarized light, once we get it as a polarized light, we take it as, allow it to pass through a sample tube, which I want to study it, whether it's a polarizer, whether it's a chiral carbon or not. So we are allowing it as a sample tube. After allowing it to pass through a sample tube, we find out that if this plane polarized light, this was the actual condition in which it changed into some angle, it changed the plane polarized light into certain angle, then this is considered to be as an optical active substance. And those compounds which are optically active substance, they are all considered to be as a plane polarized compound or chiral compound. They are all chiral compound. So if I get it as an optically active substance, that indicates that the given compound should contain chiral carbon in it, right? If it gives me optically inactive substance, that means it do not allow this light to rotate, it's change its angle, then we will consider that the given sample does not contain any chiral carbon in it. Okay. Now, at the same time, when this rotation, if the rotation is taken it on the left side, if plane polarized light is rotated on left side, then it is considered as a LEO rotatory compound, LEO isomer. And if it is on right side, then it is known as dextroisomers. Right? So whether it's moving it on the left side or right side, it will be helping me that the given compound has changed its properties also. So it becomes as an dextro or LEO rotatory compounds, or they are considered to be as an LEO isomer or dextro. They are written out as L and D also. Small l, small d. Dextro, LEO. Right? Okay. Once we get it as in this type of concepts, dextro LEO isomers, we get it as in the next topic, that is racemic mixture. Compound having 50% dextro and 50% LEO isomers mixed together, then the compound is known as racemic mixture, and the process is known as racematization. Right? That means if I am having one compound in which 50% molecules are dextrorotatory and 50% are the leo-rotatory molecules, and if they are mixed together and the compound is produced, then that is considered to be as a racemic mixture containing 50% dextro and 50% leo, and the process we consider it as racematization. Right? Okay. Now, if leo isomer changes to dextro or dextro isomer changes to leo, then that process is known as inversion. That means during this certain chemical reaction, if I take it as an dextrorotatory compound and if I produce the product and that product is leo-rotatory, that means I change the dextro component into leo isomer, then that particular reaction, during that case what I did, it is inversion. The process of changing the dextrorotatory compound to leo-rotatory compound is known as inversion. But in place of that, if rotation from dextro to leo or leo to dextro is not allowed during the reaction, then it is known as that particular process is known as retention. That means we are not allowing the compound to change its rotation. The dextro isomer remains as dextro only in the product, leo remains as an leo only, but we do not allow it to change from dextro to leo or leo to dextro. This is what we are saying it. This is my fingers. If I convert it, that means during the reaction I allowed it to change its position. My thumb was on this side, has changed its position on the other side. So that means it's a inversion. But if during the reaction this is not allowed it to change its component, it remains as it is, left, left, right, right, then it is considered to be as a retention. Right? So these are the different words that will be coming across during the nucleophilic substitution reaction of the alkyl halides, when we will be going it for SN1 and SN2 mechanism also. So during that case, this should be clearly in your mind. So we have taken it first of all, actually in your textbook. During the nucleophilic substitution reaction is first of all explained, then SN1, SN2 mechanism is explained, and then these are all the words that which were being utilized, there are being given out. What I did it is, first of all I explained those words, what is the meaning of it, and now we will be utilizing it in SN1, SN2, but in our next lecture. For till then, we will be having it as a break. In our next lecture, we will study about SN1, SN2 or nucleophilic substitution reactions. Okay, thank you.